Hi guys, welcome to the new chapter of web technology. The contents to be described: what is meant by website, what is meant by web page, what is meant by the communication on the web, what are the different types of communication such as client server communication, server to server communication, web server technologies, what is meant by web server, what are software codes, what are DNS servers, and how a DNS server resolves the IP address. Nowadays, we all depend upon the use of internet for various purposes like online business transactions, online marketing, online sales, online purchase, and online education even nowadays. So, internet consists of so many websites. Any website is a collection of web pages. A web page may contain text, graphics, sound, animations, etc. The web pages are developed with the help of a language, the language of internet called Hypertext Markup Languages or HTML. Before we can go into the detail, how the communication on the web is taking place. Before a communication has to start, the computers need to understand each other by using a protocol called TCP/IP, the Transmission Control Protocol and Internet Protocol. The Internet uses a TCP/IP model on both sides of the communication, at the sender side and the receiving side. The TCP/IP model consists of 5 layers: physical layer at the bottom, on the next to the physical layer, data link layer, then transport layer, then network layer, then transport layer, then application layer. At the receiving side also, physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, and application layer. The signals are received at the physical layer. These signals are converted into frames at the data link layer. Frames are converted into packets at the network layer. These packets are segmented at the transport layer, and finally it is converted into messages at the application layer. The application layers at the top communicates in between the sender and the receiver. So the computers need to understand each other by this TCP/IP protocol. The transmission control protocol breaks the data into packets. Packets travel from router to router over the internet according to its IP address. We have already know that these packets have to travel from one router to another, from gateways to gateways, from hubs to switches to bridges, etc., over the internet according to its IP address at the destination address. At the destination, finally the TCP, the Transmission Control Protocol, reassembles the data packets back to its original form. What are the different types of communication on the web? The client server communication and server to server communication. How the client to server communication take place? To establish a secure connection, it uses a hypertext protocol secure for encrypting, for encoding username and password, and then send it to the server. The hypertext transfer protocol secure works using a secure socket layer certificate to enhance the security capabilities of HTTP. When the browser requests a secure page, The server first returns its secure socket layer certificate. Once the SSL certificate is valid, it is verifies with the VeriSign etc. Like authorities, checks the validity of it, and then starts the communication. What is taking place during a web server to web server communication? Let us take an example of an online shopping scenario. In online shopping, the user, we know that we will place an order. The merchant's web server contacts the payment gateway. The payment gateway is a bridge. It is acting as a bridge for secure money transfer between merchant web server and bank server. Once the communication channel is established between the merchant web server and bank server, the digital certificates are exchanged between merchant and the bank. And once these digital certificates are authenticated, the servers communicates with each other. Let us have a look at the web server technologies next. We can have a look at the different terminologies like web server. What is meant by a web server? Web server consists of a server computer that runs a server operating system and a server software to provide internet services. Web server is a powerful computer. It is always on, connected to high bandwidth internet connection. It can have single or multiple processors, fast access RAM, hard disk, fast communication devices. It's a very important question from your examination point of view. Now we can have a look at where these servers are situated. These web servers are housed at data centers. The data centers are used for storing, processing, and serving large amounts of mission critical data to their clients. It requires good backup power supply systems, cooling systems. While running these huge servers, temperature may come. So, in order to reduce the temperature, the cooling systems are needed, high speed network connection, and security systems. After having a web server, we have to install a networking software, a web server software. For a web serving software to run, we need a popular server operating systems. Which are the popular server operating systems? Linux distributions are more common. The Linux distributions are Red Hat, OpenSUSE, Debian, and Ubuntu. Then Microsoft Windows Server, FreeBSD, Oracle Solaris. How to make use of the services of internet? We have already studied about different ports in different hardware ports in last year, like VGA port, SGA port, then USB port, etc. Likewise, some software ports are there to connect a client computer to a server to access services on the internet like HTTP, SMTP, etc. It is a 16-bit number added to a computer's IP address or URL. Which are the different port numbers, the default port numbers and their services? Look at the table. In the top table, we can have first the file transfer protocol. The default port number is 20 and 21. For secure shell protocol, default port number is 22. For email service, the protocol is simple mail transfer protocol. The default port number is 25. The DNS service, 53 is the default port number. The famous HTTP protocol uses the port number 80. To access the post office protocol, we use 110 as port number. For HTTPS, we are making use of port number 443. These numbers are very important from your examination point of view. Last year, the port number for HTTPS is asked. What is meant by a DNS server? The DNS server runs a special purpose networking software that contains database of domain names and their corresponding IP addresses. A domain name system contains several DNS server computers. The DNS servers are arranged in a hierarchy. At the top level, there are 13 root servers that contain name server information for all the top level domains like .com, .org, and country domains like .en, .uk, .us, .au, etc. The geographical domain names as well as the generic domain names. Several copies of these root servers are placed in different locations around the country, around the whole globe. So we can have a look at what is taking place whenever the browser searches for a particular IP address. How the DNS searches and locates the IP address of a domain name. What are the steps to resolve the IP address? Which is very important from your examination point of view. 3-mark question. The steps are: the browser first searches its local memory to find the IP address of the domain. If it is not there, it checks the operating system's local cache. If it is not there, it searches the DNS server of the local internet service provider. Again, if the local internet service provider fails to give the corresponding IP address, the ISP's DNS server initiated a search starting from the root server till it receives the corresponding IP address. After receiving the corresponding IP address, it returns to the browser. The browser establishes the connection and the contents are displayed. All these belongs to the first part of our chapter 4.